So, last night I was prepping two other videos for upload, but the tech kept glitching, making it all take a lot longer than it should have. When suddenly I noticed the date in the corner of my screen and realized it would be amiss of me to launch a pop Oracle channel with an apocalyptically themed intro series on this of all days and not make something of it. So, here goes, and a happy Halloween to all. Also, Samhain, All Saints, Souls, Skulls and Skeletons, and whatever else you and yours may celebrate. All right, let's talk Halloween. Tonight, we're going to pull the mask off of trick-or-treating, and I promise you, what's underneath is a story that's way older, a lot stranger, and honestly, a little more apocalyptic than you probably imagine. Trick or treat. It's maybe the most famous question of the whole year, right? But what if I told you that behind that simple choice, there's a wild history of praying for the dead, literally dressing up like demons, and even trying to predict the end of the world? So to really get to the bottom of trick-or-treating, we've got to work our way backward. We're going to start with the tradition we all know, and then start peeling back the layers of time. You see, the version of trick-or-treating we do today, the one that really exploded in America, it's just the latest chapter in a really long story. Before we had trick-or-treating, there was something called guising. And even before that, way back in the Middle Ages, there was souling. And here's where it gets really interesting. Look at the shift in why people were doing this. Souling wasn't about fun at all. It was a serious deal. The poor would go door to door and they'd offer to pray for the souls of a family's dead relatives. In exchange, they'd get food or ale or these special little cakes called soul cakes. It was like a spiritual economy. This was the actual chant they would sing. You can hear it, right? I, a soul cake, have mercy on all Christian souls for a soul cake. Their purpose was crystal clear. This wasn't a threat of a prank. It was an offer of spiritual help for your loved ones who had passed on. But that just begs another question. Where did this whole idea of connecting with the dead one specific night even come from? Well, to answer that, we have to go back even further, to a time before Christianity had even set foot in these lands. The ground zero for all of this is an ancient Celtic festival called Samhain. It's pronounced Samhain, by the way. And for the Celts, this night was the great dividing line of the year. It was the end of summer, the end of the harvest, and the beginning of the long, dark, cold winter. But oh, it was so much more than just the change of seasons. The core belief of Samhain, the one that changes everything, was that on this one night, the boundary between our world and the spirit world basically dissolved. It was at its thinnest, and that meant the dead could walk among the living to protect themselves from the not-so-friendly spirits. People would wear disguises, and that's the origin of our costumes, to blend in and avoid being seen by something evil. So you can see how this sets the stage, right? When your whole worldview is built around the idea that the dead can just cross back over for a night, it's a pretty small leap to start asking bigger questions. Questions about judgment, souls, and, the final, ultimate end of everything. And this is the quest. As Christianity began to spread, the old Celtic ideas about wandering spirits started to merge with Christian ideas about the afterlife, about Judgment Day, and about the apocalypse. The night the dead walked became this powerful, terrifying symbol for the end of days. And this anxiety really took hold. I mean, this wasn't just a vague fear. You had people like the 16th century theologian Michael Cervetus who weren't just thinking in hypotheticals. He looked at the world, saw corruption, and decided the end was not only near, but that he could put a date on it. And it wasn't just fringe figures either. Even one of the most important people in Christian history, Martin Luther, was completely convinced he was living in the end times. He saw the Pope himself as the Antichrist, a sure sign that the final showdown between good and evil was about to happen. Now you might be thinking, okay, that was the 1500s, we're past that now. But here's the thing. This deep connection between Halloween and the return of the dead hasn't gone away at all. In fact, even in our modern world, October 31st has remained a weirdly popular date for Doomsday predictions. It's a really good question, isn't it? With all our science and all our knowledge, Why does this one night, with its ancient, spooky history, keep attracting these predictions of total doom? Let's take a super recent example. Back in 2016, a YouTube channel did exactly this. After one of their predictions failed, they just edited the video and confidently announced that no, for real this time, Halloween was going to be the end of the world. The prophecy described this catastrophic global earthquake caused by the planet's magnetic poles suddenly flipping, all happening on October 31st. The video just painted this picture of total and complete destruction. And get this, was not some obscure little video that nobody saw. It attracted over 6.5 million views. Millions of people watched this modern-day prophecy, which just proves that the link between Halloween and the apocalypse is still incredibly powerful. But is a fiery final catastrophe the only way to think about the end? Because the apocalyptic view that fueled all those prophecies is a world away from the beliefs that started this whole tradition in the first place. You see, the original Celtic worldview of Samhain was cyclical, not linear. The end of the harvest wasn't a final judgment. It was just a necessary part of a cycle that keeps going. Winter is always followed by spring. Death is followed by rebirth. For the Celts, an end was simply what had to happen for another beginning. It wasn't a terrifying, one-time-only apocalypse. And for just a little bit of modern perspective, when NASA was asked about doomsday theories like the one in that viral video, they had a slightly different take. They pointed out that polar reversals are a totally normal thing that happens over geologic time, and that if anything, it might just be good business for compass companies. A little scientific humor there to ground us. So we've traveled from candy to soul cakes to the end of the world and all the way back again. What does it all mean for us today? Why are we still so captivated by these ancient ideas? When you think about it, whether you're a kid in a superhero costume or a medieval peasant singing for soul cakes, the act is part of this long tradition of confronting the big unknowns. Death, the afterlife, even the end itself. Trick-or-treating is really just the modern, fun, and kinda sanitized version of a very old and maybe very necessary human ritual. And that leaves us with one final thought. In a world that is full of very real things to be afraid of, why do we still embrace this tradition? What is the value in setting aside one night a year to dress up, knock on a stranger's door, and play games with our most ancient and imaginary fears? It's something to think about.